Wanasalimiwa.
To this date?
Yes. To this date, there are members of parliament who cannot step foot in their counties.
Operating from Nairobi?
Yes. I can tell you that. Yes. But that's going to be hard to do. It's going to be hard to do.
You're labeling our MPs as welfare officers when it comes to election?
But Mwenja, they are. They are. And I was just like, really?
Pharisees.
Yeah, you really think it's one of you. Like this cockiness. We were like, hapana. You guys have forgotten that the people who brought us all here, none of them are even represented in this crew. None of them even came to speak to you. None of them. But you feel that you're going to lead that group. So, no, for us, it was a statement. And it was the statement that Gen Zs haven't selected their leadership yet.
Such a privilege to have your company on Richard Mwenja Exclusive. We continue unpacking conversations that are shaping Kenya's political and governance landscape. I'm Richard Mwenja. Welcome on board. I have a favorite think tank. This lady, a woman of many firsts, top of it being the executive director of Siasa Place, Madam Nerima Wako Ojiwa. Nerima, great to see you.
Good to see you.
Yet again.
Yes.
Still high on black.
I am.
This week you've dedicated it to our fallen heroes.
I have. It's the Valentine's week. So,
But a touch of red had to be there.
yeah, red. Our flag. The blood.
The blood. Good, Nerima. So let's have a conversation around the independence of the parliament of today. We've seen rulings come from the High Court, them being overturned by the National Assembly, more particularly by the House Speaker. But let's begin from the general perspective. There's a segment that believes when we talk about the independence of parliament, it sort of by and large remains a mirage. Looking at the context of the latest ruling by Moses Wetangula regarding who is the majority party in parliament, who are the minority, would you say that we're still living that mirage when you're talking about independence of parliament?
It's no. You know, when we were watching DP Gachagua being impeached, that whole conversation in parliament, I remember that night. And it was live until like 11 p.m. People were awake. You know, I see you smiling because you know you remember where you are.
Oh yeah.
Sindio?
I was Ndego Njiru's assistant.
It's like that night is a night we will have in our memories. Like those are moments where they are historic. And I don't know if you remember the scene after they did the whole voting thing and then it was confirmed that he's impeached. And it was still rolling, right? So the channel I was watching, it was still rolling. And you could see the MPs coming, gathering together, you know, on the floor. Some of them high-fived each other. Yeah. Walikuwa wana dance. And I'm just like, my God, do these people know, like, what has just happened, what they've just agreed to, and where they've taken the country? And I could see in that moment that they've just been informed, this is the decision, go with it. Groupthink. And it's not about, you know, reflecting and really actualizing what's going on in the country. And it's a concern because, you know, you can take us through, you know, the removal of a deputy president, then what next? And it wouldn't surprise me. It doesn't surprise me just how tense things have become in terms of even people now politically mobilizing so early. A lot of people got emotionally drained and strained, you know, planting the case on corruption. But because of the way it was done, is it really corruption? And, you know, now people using that narrative to target certain groups of people, you have now put a stain in the Kenyan people, which has now changed the direction of our politics. So, no, I don't see any independence in that house. And it's unfortunate because they've been elected by the people. And even those people who are dancing, to this day, they cannot go home in their rural villages. They can't. Wanasalimiwa.
To this date?
Yes. To this date, there are members of parliament who cannot step foot in their counties.
Operating from Nairobi?
Yes. I can tell you that. Yes. I can tell you that. Yes.
Hi there. My name is Mwenja, property consultant at 1442 Kusini. We are a new project coming up in South B, Sana Sana area. We are close to Mombasa Road, about 700 meters to Mombasa Road. We also have a bunch of amenities around us, schools, hospitals, mosques, churches, and Capital Center is only a stone throws away. I will want to tell you about our 1-bedroom, which is going for 5.45 million, and our 2-bedroom going for 7.45 million shillings. Our 2-bedroom is a master and suite, and all our units feature Adobe areas.
And so it shows you that ripple effect. Even months later, people are still bitter. Months later. And that decision has now led to you being uncomfortable for the next 2.5 years. And even the fact that now people do not trust in your leadership. But the thing that it has done that is good is that it has made the public more keen on what happens in that house.
It makes sense.
Yeah, people are now watching. They want to hear what their representatives said on an issue. They are asking difficult questions online. They are going to their communities and saying, do you know this person never spoke? Hata huyu anaenda hapo anakaa tu. Like Kenyans are now getting to know what's going on in those houses. And I think that's the good thing about all this.
Nerima, they actually say that fish rots from the head. And you've talked about the emasculation of parliamentary independence. And let's understand, who could be the chief architect of this emasculation of the independence of parliament?
I think there are several. I think it's a boys' club.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I think it's a boys' club that sits at State House. But you can see the level of intimidations in terms of, you know, I was once at an event and I literally had, the president say that the party goes this way and I don't want to hear anything about it. It's in this direction. And I remember sitting back and being like, what? Did I just hear that in an event? And, it seemed normal because the event was filled with members of parliament.
An order to elected members of parliament?
I don't know if it's an order. It was more like
but you're told to vote
command.
this way or that way?
Yeah, the party goes this way. Yeah, me, I saw it with my eyes. So I can't imagine how he speaks to them or what happens within their WhatsApp groups. Even that story of Nilitolewa WhatsApp group, I believe it. I believe
but
it.
Nerima, then again, you could be implying that we could be having a dictator in the making. We thought the end of it was the times of Mobutu Sese Seko and the rest. Could we be offing a dictator in town?
Hopefully the constitution is strong enough to stop dictators from being made. And that's the true test of what last year was about. It was, young people coming out and saying, uphold the constitution, uphold the rule of law, uphold accountability, representation. It was a reminder to our leadership. That's why they went to parliament. That's why they grabbed the mace. It was about we the people. Taking power back to the people because our representatives do not have the power. That's what the symbolism of that day was. And that's what I hope a lot of Kenyans remember and will continue to remember. So the Constitution has definitely given us strength to speak up and to remember that it protects us. So no, I hope there is no dictator in the making. The Constitution stops that from happening and we must abide by it. And the Kenyan people have every right, which is also within the Constitution, to protect it. We have a right to protect the Constitution from anyone who wants to violate it.
Do you think the House Speaker, Moses Wetangula, National Assembly Speaker Wetangula, is protecting that very same constitution? Because if you look at his ruling, in which he reinstated Kenya Kwanza as the majority party in parliament, of course this flies in the face of the earlier order by the High Court of Kenya, which said Azimio is the majority in parliament. And I want to understand something. For House Speaker Wetangula, is it that he's larger than life? Or just an open disregard of the rule of law?
Well, we've seen this administration, even the previous one, which the president was part of as deputy, violating court orders, violating the courts. And we've seen them sort of show that they call it the judiciary is now an activist, and saying that the things that they've been putting in place is a fight between the executive and also parliament and the judiciary. But it's so... I'm not a lawyer. And sometimes when I look at the law, sometimes it's about who is the best debater. It's not necessarily what the law says. It can be vague. But I do think that there's a power play here. What's happening is a power play. And which is what I mentioned, which is what I'm afraid of in terms of the wild card for the country, because you're talking about who has the power within the house, within parliament. That's the decision. So when Wetangula is speaker, he came from the Kenya Kwanza side. That's where he came from. So he's going to play allegiance to the side that he came from, even though that is supposed to be a position that is neutral.
Yeah, sure.
Even though, but we can see what he's playing at. And for me, the bigger question which I'm concerned about, because I have an institution, right?
Sure.
And, even the Political Parties Act, there are 14 political parties that I am not sure where they lie. The smaller parties, where before the election, they had joined Kenya Kwanza. Even that forming of a coalition, that's not even part of our systems of governance or democracy, We're not countries like Germany, where you elect through a political party, and then based on the majority vote, those parties that have won now form a coalition.
Okay.
We tend to form those coalitions before.
Prior.
Yeah, before. So that makes our system a little bit different. So now, because of that forming of coalitions, some of these parties came way later in the game. Some of them were in Azimio before, and then they transferred to Kenya Kwanza. So I'm like, what is that? What is this chaotic mess here? That we need to clarify on, because really the argument here is where those 14 lie. That is what's going to make the difference between who's the majority and the minority. But unfortunately, because we have people who are not, they are not loyal to constitutionalism, institutionalism, and following the law, they just move based on sway, based on popularity. That's the chaos that it's bringing here. So for me, I feel there's a bigger question there. Where are those 14, where do they belong, for us to be able to understand then who's the majority or the minority?
It makes sense, Nerima, and I want to understand this. Case in point, hypothetically speaking, if today history was to be written about the conduct of National Assembly business and just the history of Parliament, and if you go down memory lane and just trace the speakers that have been there, Kenneth Marende, Franz Ole Kaparo, does Wetangula run the risk of going down history as the most biased speaker, or even the worst of the National Assembly? Because that is the claim that people are putting at his doorstep, the most biased speaker.
Because he's leading in an interesting time under the Constitution of 2010, definitely. Because, prior to the Constitution, we know who we had in leadership. We know the kind of governance system that we had, which fully relied on federal, and also the fact that resources were controlled from the main house. So it was very difficult to go against what the main house said. But when we look at devolution, when we look at the spread of allocation of resource and the power of the people beginning to rise, because this constitution gives direct power to people to be involved in all process. And a lot of cases have been won, or judgments and hearings have been won, because public participation was not done efficiently. Yeah. Because public participation was not done efficiently. So it continues to highlight the importance of people's engagement and their direct engagement in understanding what's going on. So that's where I believe why he would be labeled that, because you're coming in a situation where you have to get as much engagement and involvement from the public as possible. And also, with that information, you're supposed to also have the representatives articulate it in the House, and decisions are made. It's a completely different form of organizing from what we were used to 30 years ago. And so his comparative is going to be different. He's going to be seen as someone who wasn't as open as listening to representatives, or wasn't as open to listening to what the public uproar was saying, because we've seen a disconnect. And finance bill was just one of the ones that was quite visible. It had been happening. People had already been talking about envelopes in the House. People had already been talking about reports missing from commissions. It had been happening. Finance bill just made it more visible. And so for him to be leading the House at that moment, he is going to go in history as those who are not listening to the people.
And for him sort of to shed off this blemished lamp tag that probably he's now donning, would you probably advise him to do the honorable thing and resign, if indeed he wants to meet the light, or even say his Damascus moment, that is for Wetangula?
The honorable thing. I don't think he would want to leave his party. There are a lot of...
For Kenya?
I don't think so, yeah. Because there's going to be a lot of cooperative or corporate agreements that are going to come. And you know, you having a party gives you the powers to be able to have a negotiating chip. It would be great to see him resign. It would be simple, but I don't think that's going to support his own people and his own political career. So I think it's going to be difficult for him to resign. But the argument that a lot of people have made, comparing to countries within the region, is that speakers have belonged to political parties. Speakers are members of parliament or have served as members of parliament. So there's going to be a comparative analysis in terms of what the conclusion of the judgment is. And so, no, I expect him to stay. He's probably going to stay. Yeah.
Moving on swiftly, Nerima, and talking about how even the opposition of the day has probably taken a paradigm shift from their main role, which is oversight, and they are now partaking in the niceties and perks that comes with being in bed with the government of today. Let's take the case of, say, Member of Parliament George Kaluma. And there are those who believe that there are going to be more Azimio MPs whom, when they are enticed by this or that package from the administration of the day, they're going to completely neglect their oversight roles. And I want to understand, does this stem from the proverbial fact that a well-fed crocodile is harmless? Perhaps we are seeing Kaluma sort of play present worship to the administration of the day.
I think it's going to become more and more difficult to do that, because also we're talking about the second half term. So they are now in their midterm, right? And so now the midterm, what it looks like, people are going to be concerned about their public's opinions, their constituents. They are going to have to be able to agree with their people if they want to be re-elected. It was a lot easier to ignore the people in your first half. Yeah, because you're not close to an election. You don't have to travel to your community so much. We still have another,
You don't have to pick their calls.
You don't have to pick their calls. But now that we've crossed over the half line, the game is different.
Masania 90?
Yes, because now once you've crossed over from 45, it now becomes, okay, I want to be re-elected. Haya, lazima nishike simu. Haya, let me attend some funerals. Let me, make sure I pay for some hospital bills. I need to be, I need to be reachable. Let me be the social welfare officer. But that's going to be hard to do. It's going to be hard to do.
You're labeling our MPs as welfare officers when it comes to election?
But Mwenja, they are. They are. Unfortunately, honestly, if our MPs worked hard in terms of fixing the facilities and systems, if there were drugs in our hospitals and hospitals that people could go to, then we would not be disturbing them as social welfare officers. But because now you don't focus on those facilities, people will now depend on you to be able to buy those drugs. So they will remain social welfare officers as long as they don't fix the broken systems in their counties. But if they want to remove themselves from that, they must fix.
They must fix.
Let's
talk about fixing the nation now. And it is probably a precedent that has not been set before, whereby a huge chunk of the Gen Zote come forth and endorse someone, even before that particular individual endorses himself. Case in point, you're talking about CJ Emeritus.
I knew you were going.
I had to, because I saw you somewhere. And it is surprising that professional bodies are endorsing CJ Maraga, a chunk of them. A substantive section of the Gen Zote are also endorsing him. And yet the gentleman has not endorsed himself. Is it that he's the bread and butter that Kenya needs? And what do you think has endeared himself to the masses this far? Case of Chema cha Jiuza, Kibaya cha Jitembeza?
So we went to visit CJ Emeritus. And it was a good conversation. Why are you smiling?
No.
No, it was a good conversation. We were just sharing some of the issues that we feel with the country and issues we've picked up, from the abductions, to the killings, to the surveillance, to the misappropriation of funds. There are families today that they still don't know where their people are. People are still missing. We've not known for 6 months, and me, I've sat with some of these mothers, and it's a very painful thing for someone to be like, I don't know, is my son dead? Just give me closure. And to have an administration just act like that didn't happen, it feels like it's gaslighting. Like, that didn't happen. What do you mean? Like, let's move on.
They're talking of manufactured abductions.
Yes, let's move on. I mean, that is just, we're just like, am I in the right country? Am I in the right frame of mind? And so just to be able to share those things. And, also, although he's no longer in that board or in that commission, he was also part of the police reform. Yeah. And so, just we felt that it was important to be able to share this with him and just to hear his opinion on things and in terms of how the country is going. So it was a very good meeting. And it wasn't really an endorsement. It was just saying that there are people of all generations who want a better Kenya. And, there's a point where it became that those who are part of the protests, it's just Gen Zs. But we all want a better country. And there are different levels of generations, from millennials to X to boomers, that also want a better country and see the vision that we all see, was the message. So I think it's a good thing. It's a good thing to have different people, come out, and to have different people say, I want a better Kenya, because he definitely wants a better Kenya. And, even I've been seeing posts, I don't know who's in charge of that, I don't know who's doing it, but I'm seeing posts being shared of Omtata and Maraga. Yeah, there are people already placing them together. And, we didn't even say that, he's going for president, he's interested in president. People are the ones who are like, Aende. Yeah, and people are like, in fact, maybe IEBC would be better for him. So people are already giving him positions. So I think it's good, because what had happened was we were seeing this political class that's so used to being at the leadership. They're so used. You know how when you go to church, I don't know, I've been around politicians, even you. When they go to church, the way they know they're sitting at the front, Atakama, they just know there's a seat prepared for them.
Close to the high priest.
And then they walk in with like the confidence. Naenda hapo mbele, na nitakaa kwa hiyo kiti. My chair even looks special. They even know their chair is different. And normally red.
And the homily has to be customized to fit what I want to take in.
You understand? So I saw this image of politicians acting like that. Politically, where they know it's one of us. It has to be one of us, and so they're throwing names, like you're saying, Matiangi there, you see. And I was just like, really?
Pharisees.
Yeah, you really think it's one of you? Like this cockiness. We were like, hapana. You guys have forgotten that the people who brought us all here, none of them are even represented in this crew. None of them even came to speak to you. None of them. But you feel that you're going to lead that group. So, no, for us, it was a statement. And it was the statement that Gen Zs haven't selected their leadership yet. The elections are still far away. 2 years away. And we need to be concerned about the issues. That's why we went to discuss issues. Rather than focusing on the campaigning, was the message. And so I get happy when I see Okia and his team traveling, going to Embu, meeting people, collecting issues so that they build their manifesto. That's what it should be about. It's about the people. It shouldn't be about you and the fact that now you have a clique. They're calling what? The Western what? What? I don't even know what they've called themselves.
Kendi is questioning why you couldn't have gone to State House for that particular visit and sit down with the president instead of going for the CJ Emeritus.
And tell him what, and we know he doesn't listen.
Doesn't have the requisite capacity to listen?
I mean, if I go and sit with him and we talk, will he listen to me? See, he has told people he has a PhD. Me, I don't have one.
Oh, really?
So now, if I go and talk to him, what are we doing?
You don't even have a honorary one? Like Sudi?
Sudi, by the way. I was so happy when they said that thing was fake. I've never been so happy in my life. Come on. I was happy.
Can't you associate anything genuine,
hallelujah,
anything credible with Oscar Sudi?
Unfortunately, even just by his the way he speaks, it's difficult.
You don't credit him with deeper thinking?
No, I don't. Mwenja, I see where you're going with this. Me, I'm very proud. Me, I've graduated. I have pictures of graduation.
Genuine papers?
Genuine. I have a master's also in public administration. I'm a very focused woman. And there are many of us. But then the people who seem to be rising to the top, oh my goodness.
And you're not
a faking.
And you aren't a digital wanker.
Imagine.
You aren't?
No. By the way, where is he these days?
Conversation for another day. Let's circle back to the concern from CJ Emeritus David Maraga with regards to the future of this country. He's come boldly and talked of the judiciary of the day being under threat. And I want to understand, who could be bailing for the blood and soul of the judiciary of today?
I mean, for me, I see it as it has to be the executive, because we've been seeing some of the court rulings that have been coming out and them not necessarily falling in line with the direction that, you know, the president would like the country to go. And so for sure, that's the best way, or the easiest way, is to be able to threaten the judiciary. You do it through the finance. You make sure that you don't pay them enough. You make sure that there's a backlog of cases. You make sure that there's a lot of intimidation. You make sure that you have judges that you can bribe, who are now leading certain cases that you'd like to go in a particular direction. But for Kenya to work, the arms do need to be well-resourced and independent. There has to be a check and balance system. But if we all listen to one voice, then we have a problem. We have a problem. There has to be criticism, disagreement. That's what builds compromise.
It makes sense. Before Nerima, we close the conversation with matters to do with the IEBC, let me first bring you to speed with one of our advertising partners here on the channel, that is Herentia. And if you really want to get a home for yourself, you want to have a place you can call a retirement home, why don't you call them today and have that particular dream come true? It is Herentia, which is a premier master planned gated community spanning 100 acres along Bob Harris Road, just off Thika Superhighway at exit 16. Developed by Benva Estates Limited, Herentia offers an 8-acre service plots with ready title deeds, providing the perfect blend of tranquil countryside living and modern city amenities. Such amenities include tarmac roads, a community center, school, recreation center, commercial hub, utilities, gated access, and a perimeter wall. For more information, how about you visit Herentia through their website, or you can just give them a call today through the number 0798 444 111. The number again is 0798 444 111. Call Herentia today and they'll certainly give you value for your money. Nerima, let's now close the conversation with matters to do with IEBC. It is now the bone of contention in this country. The future of this country pretty much lies with how IEBC will conduct the 2027 elections and even events leading up to the 2027 elections. And I want to understand, are you concerned about the progress we are making towards reconstituting that body in the first place? And even when it comes on board, what should be the bread and butter that they come on board with?
The IEBC is going to have a lot of work in terms of building trust. So already 2022 election, I was very involved with the voter registration through the Youth Coordinating Committee to IEBC. And we struggled with just getting the youth to be able to register. So they had a target of 10 million. And in the first voter registration drive, they managed to get 4 million. And that was 8 weeks. And then in the second one, which was 4 weeks, they managed to get 2 million. So shy of by 4 million to the 10 million target. But now what we're seeing in 2027, we need to register 20 million people. That number has doubled. And not only has it doubled, the trust in the institution hasn't increased. So those commissioners are going to have to put trust within the IEBC, that they are able to have systems that are transparent, that are credible, that are fair. And a lot of people are also going to be looking at the positioning. Are there young people who will be there? That's also going to encourage young people to be able to say, oh, okay, if they are there in leadership, then maybe we can participate. Maybe they are open to having young people engage. But I think that's a tough hill to climb because we do know that it's going to be fronted by political parties. A lot of young people are not members of political parties. A lot of them do not engage in those political party systems until voting day. So I think that IEBC is going to have a challenge and probably have a low voter turnout if they have the same representation, the same kinds of people that they're expecting to hire for that job. They will have the same turnout, which is low. Yeah.
You somewhat signal that probably even the appointments will not be based on merit, more of political appointments to achieve this or that agenda?
For sure. Because, you know, we're working in a system that people, right now, we don't trust each other. Like, there are people who are forming coalitions based on, this is our best bet into power. And so even with the IEBC, that's how they're going to be viewing it. How do we have people who represent our parties based in that high-level commission? And so that's the concern. It's not about to serve the people. It's not about putting systems in place unless they put individuals who have track records, unless they put individuals of goodwill and people who represent the public. Then people would feel differently. But if they put the same people that we expect, that come for political alignments, then we're going to have the same result.
All right, there you have it. That point by Nerima Wako, Executive Director, Siasa Place, takes us to the wrap of our conversation today, but she has to bring it to speed with this amazing, phenomenal event that's coming up. And Siasa Place is going to be one of the partners. That is the People's Dialogue Festival. Tell us about it, Nerima.
So the People's Dialogue Festival is about 3 days of engagement. It's open to the public. It's at Uhuru Park. It's from March 5th to March 8th. And every day we discuss different things. It's an open forum, open barazas. There are different villages, and it will be discussing things around ID registration, voter registration, even politics. Politicians come through, share their ideas on certain issues, not a campaign. And it's a fun engagement to be part of. And it's free. It's free for everybody to attend.
No barriers to entry?
No, it's free. It's open. It's open to the public. Yeah.
All right. Do join Nerima Wako, her amazing team from Siasa Place, and many other partners for the People's Dialogue Festival running from 5th of March to 7th of March?
To 8th.
To 8th of March.
Yes.
At Uhuru Gardens or Uhuru Park?
Uhuru Park.
At Uhuru Park. Well, there you have it. Nerima, thank you so much for selecting time for this particular program.
Thank you.
Many people are saying that you really inject in heavy doses. You need to tone down. You're going bare knuckles on the president.
It is well. That's what we're here to do. Yeah.
You won't be sent into cowardice by those believing that you are being too brave for the country?
I'm not. I will not. I will continue to be brave. Yes. I love my country.
With or without a PhD?
I love it, yes. I love my country, and that's why I do it.
All right, there you have it. Nerima Wako, a patriot at heart. We thank her so much for gracing time, for slating time to be with us here today on Richard Mwenja Exclusive. Keep us engaged on our social media handles. I'm at Mwenja Richard across my social media handles, at X, on TikTok. Nerima Wako, where do they get you at?
I'm not that good with social media, but
I know there's something about Nerima W. Somewhere.
Yeah, it's Nerima W. Yeah, everywhere. On Facebook, on TikTok, on Insta, everywhere. Yeah.
Those who wish to know of what Siasa Place is all about, how do they reach out to you?
At Siasa Place KE, yes. And so on our X, we're very, very active, and our Instagram. TikTok is very fun.
All right, there you have it. Do enjoy the rest of your viewing. Asanteni sana.